Welcome to Hits Different.
Lee hee hee.
We haven't done that in the same room yet.
It hits different in IRL. Literally. I'm Ryan, and that's Molly.
And while Taylor didn't win any awards at the Grammys for the Tortured Poets department, that doesn't mean that the album didn't have a huge impact on the fans this year.
Some of you have shared your personal stories about how the Tortured Poets department has impacted your lives through the music and the lyrics, and we're going to share some of those stories today.
Make sure to subscribe on YouTube or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Before we get to those stories, if you didn't see the news.
I was like, is she gonna sing it? She's gotta sing it. Thank you.
Like we just alluded to, Taylor unfortunately didn't win in any of the 6 categories that she was nominated in at the Grammys, but she still was stunning in her outfit.
She was stunning. She was vibing, dancing. She was giving us everything that we look for when she's at an award show.
Exactly.
She was like peak Tay.
Everything and more with the freaking T on the upper thigh.
Crystal, so red crystals, all red, everything. Shoes, nails, everything.
We could talk about Taylor's amazing award show antics for eternity because she is such a mood. We wish that we could literally just go to an award show and dance with her.
Yes.
But we already talked about a lot of this in our live stream, which is available to watch on YouTube right now. Go watch it. We chatted with everyone for like an hour afterwards as we decompressed, recovered from the losses, celebrated the wins of the Tay family.
Yes, Tay family went home with a lot of awards. And in the end, as we're going to talk about, Tortured Poets is a winner in our hearts for many reasons.
Many reasons.
Still in our TTPD era until further notice.
That live is available to watch back, and it'll be linked to in the description of this episode if you missed it. But thanks to everyone who joined us. And also available on our Patreon will be a recap of Taylor's best Grammy moments from the night. So if you didn't catch all the clips of her dancing in the crowd, catching the jacket, all those things that happened, go watch that on Patreon.
And the Chiefs have a touchdown in New Orleans for the Super Bowl that is this Sunday.
We'll be going live on YouTube after the game, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get an alert when that live stream starts and come chat with us there, hopefully after the Chiefs have completed that 3-peat.
So it's been a minute, but it is time for Tay Therapy. We've been teasing it in our last X amount of episodes, and it is finally here. Y'all have submitted your stories, and we want to share as many as we can over this episode and the next many to come. So for anyone who doesn't know what Tay Therapy is, it's basically just time where we talk about Taylor's music, how it connects to our personal lives, how it connects to your personal life, how it's impacted you, and just kind of creating like a safe space, you know, to just like get it all out and just, you know, relate it to the music. If this is your first episode of Tay Therapy, go back and watch our other ones. We will link those down in the description because I talk a little bit about myself in the first few episodes and will in future ones give you all a little update about my life. But today we are talking about your stories, specifically those revolving around songs on Tortured Poets.
Yes, we got so many good submissions. Thank you so much to everyone who's submitted their stories. We can't wait to keep sharing more of these. And just, you know, as Swifties and Taylor fans, the reason that we love her so much is because her songwriting is so relatable. Even if you haven't been through an experience that she's been through, you can find a way to relate what she's writing about to your life. And the stories that we got relating to songs from Tortured Poets really drive that home. And I'm excited to tell everyone these stories and share them. And thank you again. We'll say thank you a million times because it's really vulnerable to share these stories. They're very personal. So we appreciate you guys.
So our first submission comes from Kathleen. And she says, so as someone who struggles with mental health, I've always found music to be such a huge coping skill for me. But Taylor's music, especially her newer songs, have gotten me through some tough feelings. My favorite song is probably I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. It's just so relatable. Plus, it always makes me smile. I don't know. I just feel like no matter what I'm going through, Taylor has a song about it, which is literally Tay Therapy in a nutshell.
Exactly.
As we just said, Kathleen, yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah, I think I Can Do It With a Broken Heart is like the token coping song. That's what it is. It's like sometimes you can't afford to wallow in your feelings, or maybe you're just wallowing internally, but you still have to go out there and do the thing, whatever it is. You know, for most of us, it's not going to be a world tour.
For tens of thousands of people.
3.5-hour shows, 3 nights in a row when you're heartbroken. But whatever you're going through in your own life might feel like that.
Yeah, I've been there too many times to count, especially because, you know, touring is like her job. So it's like I've been there having to go to my job on a day where it's like I was going through it in my personal life and had to go to work, had to not cry at my desk and just put on a brave face. And I Can Do It With a Broken Heart specifically, it's one of those like sneaky Taylor bops where at base level you're like, this is such a vibe. Like I cry a lot, but I'm so productive. And like the lyrics are just, you know, read the lyrics and like remove all of the upbeat. It's actually like not a sad song, but you know, it's like
it's a little depressing.
Yeah. It's like Cruel Summer almost. When you read just Cruel Summer lyrics, you're like, oh.
Yeah. I remember when our very first listen, we were both like, this is confusing.
Yes.
Like,
I cry a lot, but I'm so productive.
It's an art.
Yeah. So it's like you can listen to that song one day and be like, this is what I needed to like get through it. I'm feeling myself. And then you can listen to it other days, which I have, where I remember distinctly like being in the car and getting to the lyric, fake it till I make it. And I did. And I like teared up. My own personal feelings, thinking about like Taylor relating to those lyrics and like her having to put a brave face on during the Eras tour. And just like, I don't know, it was such a moment. I was like, not me tearing up to I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. That's just what her music does.
I know.
You know?
I know. Our next submission actually has I Can Do It With a Broken Heart as well. So I'll read that one next, but I have more thoughts on I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. So thank you, Kathleen, for submitting. Our next one is Melinda. And Melinda wrote, due to the loss of my dad, aunt, and friend, I was having trouble functioning and coping. I started attending grief therapy. It was suggested that I take up something new. I work 6 days a week, have a teenager, no time for a new hobby. It was suggested that I listen to music because I can listen while getting other tasks done. Since I'm a Cincinnati Bearcat, let's go Bearcats, and love Travis, I thought I would start listening to Taylor. Certain lines in I Can Do It With a Broken Heart and You're on Your Own Kid, wow, hit home. Even though she wasn't referring to death, it's still a loss. I've been really unhappy and miserable for a couple of years. Listening to her songs and feeling her pain and seeing how happy she is now has given me hope that I will be happy again someday. Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, like we said earlier, and like Molly said, we will keep saying thank you, but thank you, Melinda, for sharing a very intimate chapter of your life with us. And it's also, once again, just like connecting Taylor's music and how it gets people through stuff. Again, I can relate to that all too well. It's like if I'm having a bad day, I just pop on some Taylor music and I feel like a different person. And I've talked to Molly about how I realize when I go like days and days not listening to music at all, Taylor or any music, and if I'm going through something negative in my life, I just really get like low.
Right.
And then I'm like, what am I doing? I can't even listen to music because I'm like, I don't want to like feel the feelings, but that's often like the only way through it.
We're so sorry to hear about the loss of your dad, aunt, and friend. That's so much to deal with. I would also be having trouble functioning and coping. And I think this is a pretty good example of, again, how Taylor might have written a song about, let's say in this case, we think maybe I Could Do It With a Broken Heart is more about a breakup than it is about losing someone in this way. But her lyrics can be so specific, but also so broad that you can apply it to any kind of loss. It doesn't have to be heartbreak from a breakup. It can be heartbreak from losing someone. And the lines that really hit home for me, and I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, is I can pass this test. When you're going through a challenging period, when you're at this low point in your life, and you're like, I don't want to be here. I want to get out of it. How do I get out of it? I can pass this test. Like, I'm a real tough kid. I can handle it. And thinking that Taylor has to give herself those pep talks too.
Right.
It's like, okay, if she can do it, I can do it. And the way that Melinda, ended this story with seeing that she's happy now gives me hope that I can get to that place. It's like that is the other part of processing Taylor's music that is, and like living alongside her, that's so cool and meaningful, is like, okay, by the time we've heard I Could Do It With a Broken Heart, hopefully she wasn't in that place anymore. Hopefully she actually is like the line, I can read your mind, she's having the time of her life. Hopefully by that point she actually was having the time of her life. Right. But she had to go through that moment, and then she was vulnerable and shared that with us. And so like we can see her and be like, okay, we can feel that way again too someday.
Right. And then eventually, because, Tortured Poets on the Eras Tour came later, we got the music and then we didn't get the actual performance till like months later. So yeah, by that point she was like on the up and up. And so then singing the line at the end, like, because I'm miserable and nobody even knows. But she says it in such a like, yeah, when I wrote this, I was, and like, haha, like now I can just like laugh at it because it was a crazy time and she's obviously not miserable anymore.
Now she can make a bit out of it and be like turn on pop star Taylor.
Right. I know. It makes me think about like being on the other side of it. I mean, obviously when you're like going through it, Melinda, like your story, I know it probably feels like in certain moments, like how can I even think about the other side when like I'm so in this like hole of grief. But I guess, yeah, using Taylor as an example, it's like, it is something to like look forward to. We've all gone through even like micro losses in our life, even when we were kids. And it's like, okay, how many things have we gone through that we know we did it then? We can do it again. It's not easy, but like there is the other side of it.
It's also just really awesome that you were able to find music in this time where you mentioned it's hard to have hobbies when you have a job and a kid and things like that. I mean, we don't have kids. And like Ryan was just saying, sometimes we have trouble even like telling ourselves, oh my gosh, go listen to some music. Okay. It'll make you feel better. Yeah. You just get overwhelmed with life. And I'm glad that this period, although it has been really tough for you, that it brought you to Taylor's music, because as Kathleen said in her message, Taylor is a song for everything. So as you go through different tough periods or even some happy periods in your life, Taylor will have a song for like every emotion.
Literally. I feel like Tortured Poets especially like really opened the door of touching everything. So it's like, even if you felt like maybe before certain albums were a little too niche or just didn't relate to, it's like Tortured Poet, she's like, here you go, here's 31 songs, pick your choices. Our last submission comes from Rianne, who says, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your content. I don't have any hardcore Swifties around me, and your clowning and general love for Taylor makes me feel very accepted as a hardcore Swiftie. Which honestly, I feel like those types of comments saying like we get a lot of commenters who say like, you guys don't have Swiftie friends. And this space has become like, a good space to go and share with other people who have the same interest. And that's like our biggest like win, honestly.
Yeah, that was our goal.
Yeah, to connect you guys, like make this little community. And yes, so we love that. Now for my Tay Therapy story. I have a very difficult relationship with both of my parents. And even though Taylor did not mean to with her music, it really helps me to grieve for the relationship I wish there was with my divorced parents.
For my dad, an eternal Peter Pan syndrome. Man, you guessed it. The song Peter. He was very absent throughout my life and continually did not keep promises oceans deep of being there for me as a parent. When I was little, it could be a lot of fun and he was always in for a joke and then he would leave again for days. He was and still is usually a natural scene stealer at every party. Fun to be around until he isn't there anymore. Last year, he even moved away to a literal island, a 6-hour flight, which was kind of the last straw for me to believe he was going to be the parent I wanted him to be. I've been going to actual therapy as well, which is great, by the way, because
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
And it really helped me to see I do need to let go of what I want and accept the reality for what it is. I think I will always wait in some capacity for the father that I wish he would be, but the shelf life of those fantasies has expired, and the woman who sits by the window has turned out the light. When I first read this, I had tears in my eyes. I'm so sorry that this is what you've gone through. I'm glad that you have a song at least that can help it make a little bit of sense. I think that this is another perfect example of, I don't know that Taylor's intention, like Rhiannon mentioned in the comment, was for this to maybe be a song to grieve a parent. But again, when you listen to Peter through this lens, it's like, wow, it really hits home with this story.
I'd never listened to Peter from the perspective of a child talking about their parent. And so making the correlation out with the lyrics and hearing your story, Rhiannon, really like just opened up my mind to just how duplicitous or multifaceted Taylor's music is. And it's so impactful to so many different people. And so I made like the correlation between saying about how your dad would be there and make promises and then he would leave. And just the line from Peter, you said you were going to grow up, then you were going to come find me, and you know, just making these promises and waiting for them, and then ultimately knowing they're not going to actually fulfill those promises.
Right.
And
promises ocean deep, but never to keep. Yeah. The line that really got me when I was listening to it from this perspective is I won't confess that I waited. It's like, it makes me sad even thinking about it. It's like a child, like, doesn't want to admit to their parent, like, I've been sitting here waiting for you. The child is sitting there waiting, letting the lamp burn, hoping that the parent will come back and like step into the role that they want them to have in their life. And it just doesn't happen over and over again.
Right. I mean, as also a child of divorce, it's like the divorce is hard enough, let alone when one, if not both of your parents is playing these emotional taxing games with you and making these false promises that they actually can't keep, and they don't realize, you know, the impact they're having.
I think the other important thing that you mentioned in here is that the shelf life of these fantasies has expired. Hopefully by going to therapy and dealing with the impact of what your dad put you through, you've been able to come to this point of closure. And that's, I think, another reason why this song is so important on Tortured Poets as well, is it shows like Taylor getting closure from the story that she's telling. Like, forgive me, Peter, but know that I tried. Like, I tried to hold on and wait for you, but I had to move on. I had to turn out the light. And if any of you are familiar with the parallels between Cardigan and Peter, it's really the ending to a story that we weren't expecting it to go that way. Like in Cardigan, she's like, you know, you'd be standing here on my front porch light and you'd come back to me. Like, that's what I wanted. That's what I expected. And then you get Peter on Tortured Poets and it's like, that's not how it happened. She just had to turn out the light and move on.
Tried to change the ending. Peter losing Wendy.
Yeah. Wendy had to move on. She had to grow up.
She had to do what she had to do for herself. And when you mention your therapist giving you advice about needing to let go of what you would want and accepting the reality for what it is, that is not an easy place to, you know, end up. Some people spend their whole life with like looking for closure and having these expectations from someone else that might never get fulfilled. And it's the absolute like torment to do that to yourself. So I think it's so powerful that you are turning in a direction of realizing that like, yeah, this isn't how you wanted the story to end, but it is the story. So what are you going to do about it? And on the note of closure, I thought you would appreciate a quote that I personally really love as someone who struggles of wanting closure from those around me who I will never get closure from. The quote is, "You don't need closure to move on. Closure is what happens as you move on." And it's like very simple quote, but that is basically like what you're saying. It's like you want this whole situation to happen. You want the closure to come and you want them to apologize or just own up to what they're doing that has caused you so much pain. But a lot of the time that's not gonna happen. And so you can either choose to let it mess with you the rest of your life, or, you know, like the quote says, it's like closure is what happens as you move on. And then you find yourself along the way and you realize
you gave the closure to yourself. Yeah. That the other person couldn't give. And in case you haven't heard the song Closure from Evermore, I highly recommend. It's actually kind of the flip side where it's like someone else wanting closure because they know that they wronged you, but you've already moved on. So the song is a really interesting song and you might enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a unique, like, rare instance where they're like, wait, and you're like,
I don't need your
I've
closure.
moved on.
Yeah.
You're still at the restaurant. I'm,
Yeah.
you know.
I have moved on from the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you all again for submitting those Tay Therapy stories. Those are just a few. We've gotten a lot of submissions, but we wanted to specifically highlight the Tortured Poets ones because, again, like we talked about in the beginning of the episode, just because it didn't win an award doesn't mean it wasn't a deeply impactful album to so many of us. These songs are a lifeline for so many of us, and I can't imagine a world without Tortured Poets in it. So it doesn't need an award to acknowledge that. We can acknowledge that on our own.
Yeah. We also have some voice memos that we're going to share in some upcoming episodes. So make sure if you want to share your story, we will link that in the description of how you can submit your story. And hopefully we can talk about it here on Tay Therapy. Because I just love this, you know, it's fun to be back.
I know. Back. Yes, we are in no way therapists. We are just experts on Taylor lyrics. So.
We are not therapists. It's like, just need a disclaimer. I'm like, I have my own therapist. You know, I have Tay Therapy in my own life. I have an actual therapist.
Yes, but we're excited, you know, without the Eras tour and with football season coming to an end, you know, while we love talking about current events and things like that, we're excited to also just be able to dive in more into Taylor's lyrics, some of the messages in her songs, and be able to peel back some of those layers with you guys through your own stories. So thank you for allowing us to do that and for feeling comfortable with sharing. Ryan will be giving her updates on the next steps in her Tay Therapy journey in future episodes.
Yeah, go back and watch those past episodes to get caught up because it was a doozy. I'm excited to share that with y'all.
Yeah, leave you on the cliffhanger for now. But there are major updates.
Wow, you just ramped it. You're like,
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and hit that subscribe button. A reminder that we'll be doing another live stream after the Super Bowl, so come hang out and chat with us there, and thank you so much for watching.
Bye.
Cool.
Oh, look at that.
Yay.
Is that on the recording?
Probably. Yeah.
Hell yeah, you should keep this.